And we'll start with Vince Haley. Vince Haley, a William & Mary and UVA graduate, is running for Virginia Senate. After practicing law in New York and San Francisco, he returned home to work for the National Republican Senatorial Committee, where he met House Speaker Newt Gingrich. He later became Speaker Gingrich's campaign manager and is now a vice president at Gingrich Productions. He's also been an active writer for Speaker Gingrich, and so please welcome Mr. Vince Haley.
Hello, everyone. As I was coming on the college campus today, I got very nostalgic because whenever I get on the college campus, I remember all the good times I had on the college campus, and I was a bit of a perpetual student. I was an undergrad at William & Mary, and then I went to law school at the University of Virginia, and I did another year overseas at a place called the College of Europe. So I do like the academic life, and maybe an alternative life. I would like to become a professor. But right now, I'm running for Virginia Senate. You know, how many undergrads here? We got a handful of undergrads, right? Okay, so, you know, when I was an undergrad at this time of year, my senior year at William & Mary, and I was a political science major, there was nothing more than I wanted than to go back to Europe, where I'd spent my junior year abroad in France. I was sort of an international relations focus, and that's all I thought about. And I got accepted into law school, and I deferred for a year, and I went back and I studied German in Munich for a year. And I share that with you because the 1988-1989 time period were obviously unique periods in our national history and world history. Every world-changing events took place, of course, with the fall of the wall in 1989. The reason I mention that is, of course, ideas really do matter. I mean, the events of 88, 89 happened because of the ascendancy of one big idea articulated by our President Ronald Reagan. That was the idea of freedom. Both freedom abroad and challenging the captive states of the former Soviet Empire, and also freedom domestically in the form of lower tax rates, more economic freedom, more freedom for people to work, develop their businesses, grow. It unleashed a 25-year economic expansion in this country that only came to an end around 2006. Now, I mention those ideas because the ideas will shape your world as you leave this university. And today, unfortunately, we have two very bad ideas that are ascendant in the country. And the first really bad idea is this idea that we thought we would have defeated in the 80s, was the idea that central bureaucracy, central planning, can bring about a better future. We see that again and again with legislation in Washington, that again, central bureaucracy somehow, through multiple regulations, can increase human happiness. Now, that's been shown to not work very well. If you ask anybody who's trying to find affordable health care insurance, it's not very affordable. Energy rates are set to go up. It's leading to a very bad second idea that's going to have to, you're going to grow up in or continue as you leave college. And that is this idea that when these ideas fail and can no longer be pushed, well, we're just going to change it anyway using unilateral powers that we're going to assert at the federal level. Okay? Well, it's not just at the federal level. Some of these bad ideas are now percolating into the states. And I want to talk about two big ideas in my campaign because in part I want to reverse bad ideas that are out there. The first idea is it's a good idea that's being shown across the country, and that is people who live in states with no state income taxes are doing very well. People are moving to those states. They, in many cases, have better services. People are leaving the high-tax states to move to the low-tax states. Why do they do that? In part because they get rewarded for their work. They don't have a marginal tax on their extra work. We see people moving to Texas, Florida, Tennessee, North Carolina, our neighbor to the south, is trying to be the next state without a state income tax. I think we need to learn from what's going on in the other states, and I think Virginia should move in the direction of no income taxes. That is not an overnight proposition, that is a long-term proposition. But the way we do it is the way that they're doing in North Carolina. In North Carolina today, they set revenue targets in their legislation. And they say, if we meet this revenue target, then we're going to drop our income tax rates. They've now been doing that since 2013. And what it's doing is it's setting in motion a signal to the rest of the country that North Carolina is a good place to do work. And people are moving to North Carolina. We can do that. Right now in Virginia, we do not have an automatic surplus returning to the people. It goes to other purposes. think we need to change that. I think we need to adopt the North Carolina model of revenue targets. And if we do that over time, we can join these states that have no state income tax. They have bigger economies, they have more jobs, people move to them, retirees don't have to leave and go to Florida, they can stay in Virginia, and we're going to have a bigger economy as a result. The other big idea of my campaign is that Virginia has to be much more forceful when the federal government overreaches. Now, we can't do that in every area, but we can do it in a lot of areas. And the one area that in particular is going to affect our lives if we don't stop it, that is the issue of energy. Now, the EPA, I'll use this as an example because it's the most, I think, threatening to our economy. The EPA has a plan by which the effect of it would be to raise electricity rates in this state by 20 to 30%. That's an estimate of the Dominion Power and our State Corporation Commission, which says 20, but they say Dominion's not too far off either. A 30% increase in our electricity rates would affect everybody who's got a handheld iPhone or other kind of device. The internet generation is going to get taxed another 30%. Our seniors who are on fixed incomes, they're going to get taxed. And a fixed income senior facing, let's say, a $400 to $500 increase in their annual energy costs, that's not something they can easily adapt to. Others may be able to adapt to it, but they cannot. This is an attempt by the EPA, the federal government, acting without a legal basis. There are plenty of lawsuits in this regard. You even have President Obama's own Harvard law professor, a two-time donor to his campaign, saying that we do not, and this is his rhetoric, this is not somebody right-wing crazy. This is somebody that twice gave to his campaign, had President Obama as his legal assistant. He said, we don't need to be burning the Constitution when we set national energy policy. Virginia can stop this. The General Assembly just had an effort in which in the House of Delegates they passed legislation, or they passed a bill in the House of Delegates that said that Virginia Assembly has to have an approval of any plan that is submitted under this EPA plan. That failed in the Senate. We need to fight this tooth and nail, be a champion in the Senate to stop this and make sure that we don't have that kind of heinous tax, energy tax, imposed upon our citizens. And hopefully that will have some second and third order effects because the central government in Washington is getting away with all types of unilateral actions that are affecting us here in the States. And we can start by stopping the EPA energy tax. So those two big ideas, one, improving the performance of our economy and long-term growth by controlling our spending so we can take surpluses to ratchet down income tax rates with the ultimate goal of ratcheting down as far as we can, hopefully to zero. And then second, making sure we're much more aggressive with stopping overreach where we can. Then I think we can have a much better Virginia economy, a much better future for everybody here who studied here and wants to stay here, as opposed to going to Tennessee or North Carolina. You know, we just had March Madness. We know the idea of competing on the basketball court. We need to compete in tax rates as well. Shaka Smart just went to the University of Texas, where, you know, in Texas it's a no income tax state. If he had stayed here, the same salary would be taxed $175,000 more. Now, for someone who's got a big salary like that, okay, that's a special case. But you know, for the rest of us, savings on our income taxes and having a lower tax burden is going to be better. We're more money in our pockets, and we're going to have more freedom to decide how to spend that money. So with that, I'm happy to take questions.
I was really involved in the Cantor Brat primary that went on last summer, and I was just wondering, who did you support in that election?
The election was something that my sister who's sitting right behind you and I and her husband Bill were talking about at great length. And I had not known about Dave Brat for a good long time. And the more I learned, the more I was interested. The Sunday before the election, I got a knock at the door. We had 3 little kids, and they were sleeping. I was a little annoyed that they had a knock at the door. And I opened the door, and there's 2 people there from the Dave Brat campaign. And they talked to me about the campaign, what they were about, their criticisms of Cantor. And I listened, and I went inside, and I said to my wife, I said, that's interesting. Dave Brat just asked for my vote. Eric Cantor hasn't asked for my vote. And we talked about some more, and that Sunday night, we had talked about voting for Brat. The argument that was persuasive to me was on the immigration issue. We had just experienced 5 years of the Obamacare fiasco, the changes, unilateral changes and all. of Obamacare. I don't believe you can trust the Obama administration. And the noises out of the Republican leadership in Washington was that, well, maybe we can make a deal with them. Well, that infuriated me. And so we made the decision that we were going to vote. Now, election day, I had to be at a meeting out of town in North Virginia at 9 a.m., so I took a 6 o'clock train. Now, I thought I was going to make it back in time. I didn't make it back in time. So I didn't get to vote in that election. But I would have voted for Dave Brad. And I remember the next morning I got a call from the now spokesman for Ted Cruz, who called me excitedly, and first thing I said was, welcome to America, because only in America could you have such a dramatic defeat of a sitting congressman in that kind of powerful position.
All right, thank you.
So please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in Alaska they have a no income tax policy, and part of the way that's accomplished is because of the, I guess, oil revenue. What would be Virginia, how would Virginia be able to accomplish that?
So these other states have sales taxes. We have a sales tax here. North Carolina has a sales tax. They have different levels of sales tax. Part of the way you finance it is you have to control your spending. It doesn't work if you don't control your spending. I'll take Kansas as an example. Kansas, under Governor Brownback, who just got reelected, what they did is they just went and cut the taxes, hoping that the resulting growth would pick up. It hasn't quite succeeded the way they want to do it. I proposed a different course, the one that they're doing in North Carolina. And that is you get a hold on spending growth, and when you do that, you'll generate some surplus. Right now, we generated surplus this past year, but it's not going to reduce the income tax. I think we should apply some of that surplus, ongoing surpluses, not one-time surpluses, but ongoing surpluses to lower the income tax rate. And when you do that, you will generate some positive growth feedback, and that will help finance it. And over time, the hope is that you will have the income tax rate going down, and the sales tax and other taxes we have picking up the burden. I just would mention, I got my sister here. My sister's also my next door neighbor in the West End near Gate Crossing. She is in 1984. What's your an 84 grad of this law school. She's number 9 in the family. I'm number 10. I have a twin sister who's 11, and I was born and raised in Virginia. And I hope that those who are interested in this campaign will come and help us out. As anybody here, Eddie Whitlock, and the other candidates know, it's all comes down to the kind of volunteers you can get to support your campaign and go out and do the hard work of door knocking. I was in a neighborhood yesterday, and I was following the cards of Eddie Whitlock. And then Heidi there in the back, she just knocked on my door the other day and spoke to my wife. So this is the nuts and bolts of campaigning. And I hope you all would come help me out. We have 8 weeks to go from tomorrow. And of course, it makes a big difference to your next state senators, and I hope to be that next state senator. Thank you.